When you picture ancient Greece, you probably think of philosophers, democracy, maybe some epic battles, right? But what if I told you that underneath all of that, there's a hidden story, a story about the one resource that made everything else possible, water. We're going to dive into how a civilization living in one of Europe's driest landscapes literally engineered its way to greatness. So our story kicks off with a moment of just pure awe. About 2,500 years ago, the historian Herodotus is traveling, and he sees something on the island of Samos that just blows his mind. It wasn't a temple or a statue. It was an aqueduct, a tunnel bored straight through a mountain. He called it one of the greatest works in all of Greece, and believe me, he was not exaggerating. And that incredible tunnel, it raises the real question, doesn't it? I mean, it's one thing to build something amazing, but how do you manage a resource that's so scarce, so vital for thousands and thousands of people all packed into a city? Well, the Greek secret, as we're about to see, was this powerful combination of brawn and brains, absolutely incredible engineering paired with some surprisingly sophisticated laws. To really get their genius, though, we have to rewind the clock, way back. See, the Greeks' mastery over water didn't just pop up out of nowhere during the classical era. Nope, it was built on a foundation of knowledge that was thousands of years in the making. Just look at this. On one hand, you've got the Minoans on Crete. They were all about domestic life, comfort, and hygiene, especially in their palaces. We're talking terracotta pipes, complex sewer systems, and yeah, even flushing toilets 3,500 years ago. Then, on the other hand, you have the Mycenaeans. They were focused on agriculture. They were building these massive, large-scale projects for flood control and irrigation, so you have two totally different problems, which led to two different but equally brilliant engineering mindsets.
Okay, so let's fast forward a bit and see how this all comes together. Because when a new kind of society starts to emerge, the city-state, it creates a whole new set of water problems that demanded solutions on a scale nobody had ever seen before.
And here's the thing, as these city-states, the famous Greek polis, started popping up, they weren't settling in these lush green river valleys. They were often built in really dry, arid regions, maybe for trade or defense. So you've got more people, less water. You can see how a crisis was definitely brewing. So who steps in to solve this? Well, the answer is a little surprising. Powerful rulers the Greeks called tyrants. Now, that word has a really negative ring to us today, right? But back then, these leaders often got power and kept it by giving the people what they needed. And what did the people need most? Water. So funding a massive public works project like an aqueduct was a genius move to win popular support. And this brings us right back to that incredible marvel that so impressed Herodotus, the Tunnel of Eupalinos on Samos. This thing is the ultimate example of one of these tyrant-funded mega projects. Just to put it in perspective, this tunnel was over 1 kilometer long, dug straight through the heart of a mountain. And get this, it took them 10 years to build it. A truly colossal undertaking. But here's the really human part of the story. This wasn't just about utility. I mean, they could have built a much simpler channel around the mountain, but no, they tunneled through it. This was a statement. It was a monument to their own technological prowess, a project designed to make both the engineer, Eupalinos, and the ruler, Polycrates, absolute legends. So the Greeks could build incredible things. We've established that. But pipes and tunnels are pretty useless if people are just going to fight over every single drop. And this is where the story pivots from engineering to something just as crucial, the law. I mean, it just makes sense, right? When you have a growing city and everyone is sharing a very limited water supply, you absolutely have to have a system to manage it. You need clear, fair rules to stop arguments before they start and make sure everyone gets their share. And here is the proof of how seriously they took this. It's literally carved in stone. This is an inscription of a public works contract from the 4th century BC. They didn't just have rules, they wrote them down for everyone to see, holding everyone accountable. And check out how specific these laws could be. This rule from the famous Athenian statesman Solon lays out exactly what to do if your well runs dry. You can't just take whatever you want from your neighbor, there's a process. It's regulated. It was designed to help people in need without, as Solon himself put it, provisioning the idle. It's just so incredibly pragmatic. And of course, managing this whole system required real authority. In Athens, they had an official position called the Superintendent of Fountains. And this was not some minor desk job. This was a powerful elected official. Think of it like a modern-day commissioner of public works. The job was so critical, they didn't fill it by a random lottery like many other government posts. No, they held an election to make sure they got the absolute best person for the job. Okay, and if you thought that was advanced, you have to see the details of that stone contract we just saw. It's for a drainage project, and it's basically what we would call a build, operate, transfer agreement today. A private contractor funds the whole thing. In return, he gets to use the new farmland for 10 years. He gets tax breaks on materials, but, and this is key, he also has to pay the city a rental fee and post a massive financial guarantee to ensure he does the job right. I mean, this is a shockingly sophisticated legal and economic framework for the 4th century BC.
So let's pull these two threads, the incredible engineering and the brilliant law, together and see what this complete Greek model for water management really looks like.
Looking at this map, you have to remember the fundamental challenge they faced. Their greatest cities, Athens, Knossos, Milet, they all grew in the absolute driest parts of the Greek world. That wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. And it was a choice that forced them to become brilliant innovators. So here it is, the big takeaway. The Greek secret was a two-part system. They combined ambitious, monumental engineering with a practical, detailed, and fair legal framework to manage it all. This balanced approach was so incredibly successful that it basically created a blueprint for civilization, one that was later picked up and scaled up massively by their most famous students, the Romans. And all of this brings us to this really powerful idea. The challenges the Greeks were dealing with, managing a scarce, essential resource for a growing urban population, that's not just ancient history. Those are our challenges right now. Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. As our world grapples with droughts, water rights, and the need for new infrastructure, maybe the most innovative solutions aren't just waiting to be invented. Maybe they're waiting to be rediscovered. So the question for us is, what can we learn from their ancient blueprint of combining ambitious engineering with fair, practical rules?